Hi, my name is Luke Thompson and I am an occupational therapist and the Assistive Technology Lead at the PACE Centre in Aylesbury. The PACE Centre is a charity that provides first-class education and therapy to children and their families aged 0 to 18 who have cerebral palsy or related sensory motor disorders and developmental delays. Our aim is to empower our children and families to have full and independent lives for today and tomorrow's world. PACE has a primary and secondary school, a child and family centre, and an outreach service into other LEA SEND schools. As a paediatric occupational therapist, my aim is to work with students to empower them to do the things that they have to, want to, are expected to, and above all, love to do. This is at home, school, in their local community, and covers physical and social, emotional, mental health needs. This can be by providing fine motor interventions to aid in a child's ability to hold a pencil, mark make, handwrite, or improve their independence with self-care activities like dressing, using zips, tying shoelaces, and so on. Or we might work with a child on their regulation, sensory processing, and social interaction. Or we may complete a postural assessment, or teach wheelchair skills, or work with the child on transfers, and so on. OTs cover a wide spectrum of needs and are trained to consider a child's holistic needs. Unlike adults who acquire an injury, children born with disabilities do not have the same opportunity to develop occupational preferences. So, a big part of a paediatric OT's job is bridging that developmental gap. But typically, and all the children I know, play is their most meaningful occupation and it is the greatest tool for their learning. So, our assessments and interventions have an essential element of fun and play to them. The purpose of this video is to provide you an introduction to assistive technology, highlight its importance for play, education and occupational engagement, and provide you with some top tips for assessing and implementing AT. I will also briefly mention some exciting AT projects we are working on at PACE, some of which we have made available to you free of charge. According to the UK government, assistive technology covers a wide field. Some of the items they list as AT are mobility aids, wheelchairs, walking aids, artificial limbs, communication and hearing aids, posture management, pressure management, moving and handling systems, hoists, slings, sliding boards, bath lifts, hospital and community beds, mattresses and accessories, therapy equipment, telecare, for example, personal alarm systems, home care systems, etc. The Associates for the Advancement of Assistive Technology in Europe, the AAATE, aptly summarise AT as any product or technology-based service that enables persons with disabilities or elderly in their daily lives, education, work or leisure. At PACE we divide AT into three main categories: daily living aids, digital assistive technology and seating and mobility. Some example of these: so daily living aids ranges from helping hands to non-slip mats to sock aids to pencil grips, shoe horns, kettle tippers and so on. Typically we find daily living aids extremely helpful across the school day in both the helping of the child's activities of daily living, but also supporting curriculum activities. Non-slip mats are gold dust in securing and stabilising objects, or helping hands are beneficial for a child to grab paint from a cupboard or pick up objects from the floor from their wheelchair, or support dressing. Digital assistive technology ranges from specialist keyboards, joysticks and mice to high-end mounted tablet computers with eye gaze cameras and software. There are 5 main access methods when assessing digital assistive technology. They are switches, touchscreen, eye gaze, keyboard, joystick, mouse, and voice. A child can use multiple access methods, and as you can imagine, each one has a wide range of tech. Take for example switches. You have push button switches ranging in all shapes and sizes and tactile coverings. There are proximity switches, grasp switches, blink switches, EMG activated switches, and so on. This is not to mention the software, mounting solutions, interfaces, toys, and other accessories associated with them. There is also the developmental skills and progression pathways when learning switch skills. A child typically goes from learning through experimental learning to making something happen, mastering skills, using multiple switches, choosing independently accessing a range of functional activities. They will learn skills like pressing and holding, pressing and letting go, press it again, turn on and off, start and stop, this and that, scan and select, and so on. Seating and mobility ranges from specialist classroom chairs to specialist prams to modular seating systems to molded seating systems to a combination of seats placed on a transit wheelchair base or a power wheelchair base that may have tilt, recline, a high-low feature. Maybe I'll have a tracking system that will follow a line on the floor, and so on. Other assistive technology mobility aids are walkers, crutches, walking sticks, walking frames, automated exercise bikes for upper and lower limbs, and so on. So there is a lot of AT out there. We believe that AT can empower our students in the following 6 key areas: accessing their environment, communication and social interaction, education and curriculum, movement and posture, play and leisure, and activities of daily living. We believe each bit of AT needs to be considered in line with these 6 key areas to ensure it is of optimal benefit for the student. Take, for example, a power wheelchair. The right seat on a power chair with the right functions and access control enables a student to move around and access their environment, have their posture safely and optimally managed, providing the best support and stability to improve upper limb and fine motor skills. It also improves their ability to socialize independently with their friends, play games like wheelchair football, independently move themselves through the school to get their lunch, go to the toilet, get the paints, put their work in their tray, or put their coat on the peg. They also can use their power wheelchair to go on phonics walks, play wheelchair sports for PE, go on a field trip to the shops, to a castle, to a museum, and so on. That is one example of a combination of AT, a power wheelchair, specialist seating, control system, and accessories that has a clear impact on all these key areas. I could do the same for other AT like computers, communication devices, non-slip mats, pencil grips, and so on. We have a vision at PACE that all children that need AT will have early access to individualized AT and AT programs that are actively reviewed, current, and of optimal benefit to the child. Without AT, children with disabilities are less likely to thrive, particularly in school. Dubois et al. Highlights children with disabilities face difficulties in accessing appropriate curriculum activities or keeping up with educational demands. Dalton and Hoyt-Hallett state that they are likely to face occupational deprivation due to a poor fit between their physical skills and the surrounding environment. However, Whiteford correctly summarizes how AT can improve occupational engagement and social inclusion in children with disabilities. Chantry and Dunford importantly argue how AT supports a change from passive to active participation and inclusion. The importance of AT is also well established in the UK government. For example, since 1970, in Section 22 of the Chronic Sick and Disabled Persons Act, it requires an annual report to be placed before Parliament each year describing research activity funded by the government to improve AT for disabled and elderly people. Furthermore, in the World Health Organization's Global Disability Action Plan 2014 to 2021, Strengthening and extending assistive technology is one of their goals. So AT is important for children with disabilities. It is recognised by governments and global charities. But do we take it seriously enough, and do we implement AT effectively with our children? Here are my top tips for assessing and implementing AT in the classroom. Firstly, you need to take a top-down versus bottom-up approach. Top-down is to consider the child holistically and what they need and want to achieve. Bottom-up is looking at a child's dysfunction and trying to fix the problem. I've encountered many situations where this approach has been detrimental for the child. For example, I know many children that have difficulty typing being automatically issued a laptop with dictation software. The child, however, cannot independently carry the laptop, remove it from the bag, set it up so the display is at an appropriate angle and distance, and so on. They also often have little or no further input to learning keyboard skills, as they now have dictation software to fix the dysfunction. However, children that have difficulty typing can still access and control a computer through a keyboard, specifically one suitable to their needs and set up for their use. Therefore, consider the function and do not try and automatically fix the dysfunction. Secondly, it is vital to collaborate and communicate with all the people around the child. At PACE, we take a transdisciplinary approach where families, teaching staff and therapists work more intensively together. This helps to ensure AT is optimized and opportunities are not missed. For example, a speech therapist might assess a child and look to issue them a computer to work as an augmentative and alternative communication device. However, at the same time, an OT and teacher could be working with that child on recording their work. If the team around the child do not communicate and collaborate, the child might receive 2 computers and 2 interventions focusing on different access methods. Thirdly, use just right challenge principles and grading and adapting of equipment or support. Just right challenge is when a task or intervention is set just right. So the child is challenged enough to develop, but not too easy that they don't improve their skills or get bored of the task, or at the other end of the spectrum, find it too tricky that they repeatedly fail and decline to engage any further. Interventions and equipment can be graded and adapted to ensure a just right challenge. The next important tip is review. It is important that you regularly review AT and interventions to ensure it is still relevant and working for the child. Children develop, grow, and their needs change frequently. AT should be issued with a progression pathway in mind and not as a full stop job done. Review ensures that the AT is still being useful at a just right level and gives an opportunity for issues to be discussed and problems resolved. Too much AT sits in cupboards unutilized due to resolvable issues. The final point, and possibly the most important, is acceptance. The child and family must accept and have a positive view of the equipment. Something as simple as the colour can make a vast difference between whether a bit of AT is successful or a complete failure. I often encounter situations where clinically I know a bit of AT would be ideal. However, the child and the family aren't in a place to accept it yet. It is better to have a bit of AT that is not as ideal but accepted than an ideal bit of AT which sits dormant and unused. So the child and the family's view and feelings towards a piece of AT is very important regarding whether it's going to be successful. Invest time to listen and hear the family's view and help them on their AT journey. For example, most families I've worked with regarding seating systems often struggle going from a special buggy to a child's first wheelchair. Many parents of disabled children grieve the loss of not having a healthy child and often hope the child will not require equipment like a wheelchair. Others become very protective of their child, which can lead to mollycoddling them and treating them younger than they are. Others get attached to the functionality of a special needs pram, as it's helpful with carrying a lot of stuff compared to a wheelchair. So the change from going from a special needs pram to a child's first wheelchair is not as simple as getting the right wheelchair, but working with the family, accepting the chair and being happy with it. That's not to mention ensuring it fits in their car, can get in and out and immobilize around the house, school and other commonly visited places, can be safely operated by the child and carers. Oh, and most importantly, is the right colour. There is a great handout produced by a company in Western Australia called Indigo. The handout is the 10 Commandments of Teaching Access Skills. See the link below? They collate some evidence from two main experts in the field of access, and that's Linda Burkhart and Ian Beam. They are both worth a Google. I will quickly go through these 10 commandments with you in regards to the use of AT in your classroom. Number 1, make it motivating. Similar to the points I made in regards to the Just Right challenge and acceptance of AT, it is important that the child has volition and motivation with the AT that they're using and the reason they're using it for. It is effortful learning new skills, so ensure that the reward is worth the student's effort. That will be by making sure the activity is relevant and meaningful to them. Number 2, teach in natural context. Children are sponges. They soak in what is happening around them. Harness this when introducing AT and diminish the foreignness and disruption that a new thing or routine can create. So instead of having a separate lesson for the child to repeatedly practice, let's say, scissors skills with a new pair of special needs scissors, introduce it as part of existing lessons. Number 3, model. I often find that children do not like to be singled out or look different from their peers. AT is often more easily accepted and used when it is universally accepted. So a role model like a teacher using that bit of AT can help a child to accept it. And then it's also helpful if you model in the way that you want that child to use it. When you model and experience the AT for yourself, it also gives you the valuable insight and experience that the child is going to go through. I've set up many colleagues to experience driving a power wheelchair around the school, and nearly all of them say immediately, it's a lot trickier than it looks. Afterwards, they have a greater appreciation of the challenges the students face, and most of them change how they support students in using power wheelchairs. Number 4, secure the equipment or diminish the issues. Think through all the potential issues that might happen and resolve them. So if you're wanting a child to use a switch, then ensure the switch isn't moving and falling off the tray every time they try and use it. If you issue a laptop to a student, make sure you think about how they will carry it and set it up and so on. Number 5, wait. This is the most important skill when working with a child with disabilities. Think through the process a child goes through to engage with the activity. They have to process instructions, understand what is required of them, figure out how to respond, engage muscles, focus and perform the action you've requested of them. Now understand that anything you do or say during that process might reset or interrupt it. So wait. I often count to 10 or more in my head to ensure I'm giving the child a fair chance and also to busy myself. Number 6, use a prompt hierarchy. So if you need to interject, then use a prompt hierarchy to ensure you are doing the least intrusive prompt and affording the child the greatest opportunity for their independence. Many children with disabilities have learned helplessness and wait or rely on others to do things for them. Using a prompt hierarchy empowers the child to be proactive. There are many different prompt hierarchies online, but find one you like and print it out and put it on your wall to remind you and your colleagues. I like this one, wait. Give the student an opportunity to complete the activity independently. I heard a speech and language therapist call this stage an inviting and expecting pause. So not twiddling your hair or on your phone, but actively waiting and expecting communication through your body language. For this prompt hierarchy, the first principle of wait is sandwiched between every other prompt. So the next prompt after waiting, environmental cue. Look at or draw attention to the activity. Again, use your body language or adjust furniture to draw attention to the activity. Then wait. Gesture. Indicate with emotion what you want the student to do. Then wait. Model. Take a turn of the activity as a participant to show the student what you want them to do. Then wait. Verbal prompt. Directed at the action or the function or the activity rather than a verbal command to act. So for example, with a switch activated toy that sings, say, I want to hear a song, rather than hit the switch, then wait. Partial physical prompt. Again, try and use just right challenge principles regarding physical support. At a minimum, allow the child to complete the final movement. A parent recently reported to me, after having set them up with some amazing AT at home, that when they first got the kit, they kept putting the child's hand back on the switch. But after a few weeks, and with the child being left with the kit set up, the parent noticed how the child was actively bringing their arms into a position and finding the switch for themselves. Then wait. Full physical assistance. Hand-over-hand support is needed for the early stages, but you should look to quickly move on from this stage. Back to our 10 commandments of access. Number 7. Provide activity-focused feedback. This is similar to the verbal prompt. You want to focus on the function and activity rather than the action. Remember, many children with disabilities have learned helplessness. If you are saying, hit the switch, they are likely not developing switch skills at all, but relying on you for them to activate a switch. For example, when using a sat-nav in your car, people often passively follow the instructions, even if it directs them into a field or a stream. I've not been that badly affected by sat-nav, but I know for definite if I'm following sat-navs, I cannot retrace my steps for myself. Remember the cognitive angle of your intervention when working with the child. You want them to be active and not passive, both in the thought and action. Number 8, repetition, repetition, repetition with moderate differences. The aim is for the child to become automatic in their access method. For those that can drive or touch type, think how when you first learned that skill, you had to specifically think through each movement of your hand. But after years of practice, you no longer look for the keys on the keyboard or look at the gear knob diagram to see where the gears are. You just do it automatically. Children will need to repeat their access method thousands of times if it is to become an automatic skill. So repetition, repetition, repetition is key, but also variety to keep the volition and drive there. Number 9, balance the motor and cognitive demands. Learning new access skills may be very effortful, both physically and cognitively. When I learned to ride a motorbike, I was drenched with sweat after every session and completely fatigued due to the physical and cognitive demands. When teaching a new motor skill, initially keep the cognitive demands of the activity low. So for example, if learning typing, don't have the child start by having to dictate for you or write a novel. Start with typing games. Once the motor planning becomes automatic, you can then increase the cognitive demands of the activity. Short and often is better than long and infrequent. Number 10, remove the equipment when not in use or diminish problems from the outset. This is one of my greatest frustrations, particularly in the early stages. So for example, if you set a child up with switches to play a game on a computer, but after the session they are left with the switch operating nothing, they will learn that switches do nothing other than maybe make a little click noise. They will then have to work really hard to understand that the switch controls something external to the click noise, like a computer, a game, or toy. So when not in use, remove them out of the way and diminish those problems. So that's the 10 commandments of teaching access skills and the prompt hierarchy. Hopefully you find that helpful. To conclude, I just want to highlight to you some special projects we are involved in regarding AT at PACE. PACE plans on being the first SEN smart school in the UK with the aim to provide an inclusive, assistive, technology-rich environment in which our students can advance their independence and learn new skills by using AT to leverage their learning at every opportunity, from entering the classroom to leaving school at the end of the day. As part of our Smart School project, we have been developing a mobile AT kit and are developing libraries so we can go into the community, students' homes and other schools to support the use of AT. We're also part of IBM's Extreme Blue Summer Intern Program and working with them on solutions regarding access to switch technology. We also recently launched a free web app called the Pace My Way. We developed this as part of our COVID-19 lockdown response with the support of an amazing software engineer called Andrew Lewis. The Pace My Way would be of particular interest to SEN settings. If you are familiar with Big Macs, step-by-steps, smooth talkers and the like, this web app does all those functions and more. And it does it for free. Just go to the link on the screen and you can find out more about it. Prior to lockdown, we were working with The Parallel, a VR company that is developing a VR intervention for children with motor disorders. We have also been developing, with the support of Remap, a simulator power chair which helps in the development of children's access skills. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions or would like to contact me, then please do not hesitate to email me at luke.thompson@thepacecenter.org. Thank you.